Welcome to the Passive Income Podcast. I am your host and Dividend Dave. Please be sure to join the Passive Income Posse by clicking that subscribe button below. And joining me today on the podcast is Dr. Dividend. You can find him on Twitter at Dr. Dividend 47. I'm going to throw it over to you, Doc, to give yourself a brief introduction.
Well, hey everybody, I'm Dr. Dividend. I've been investing for a little over 2 years now and have been writing about it for over almost a year now. And I've been so excited to see how many people resonate with dividend content. And I've been a reader of so many other people's dividend content and investing articles. And I decided to just put my 2 cents out there. And I'm happy to have met the people that I've met, like Dividend Dave here. So super
Yeah,
excited to be
awesome.
here and I can't wait to chop it up with you, Dave.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And you're correct. The community on Twitter, the Dividend Div Twit, we are all supportive of each other. We all like seeing each other posting, "Hey, I made a 5-cent dividend. I made a $50 dividend. I made a $500 dividend." It really doesn't matter. We're all giving each other the likes and the thumbs up and just keep going after it, right?
Exactly. We all start at the beginning. So those 5 cent dividends turn into $50 dividends and turn into $500 dividends. So I'm so happy about the Div Twit
Exactly.
community. And I'm happy I've met these people and it's been an awesome ride so far.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Those like you said, you just got to start, get on base. That's my Moneyball reference. Just get on base.
Great
You
movie.
got to start somewhere with that 5-cent dividend. And before you know it, that's 5 cents turns into a $5 dividend and then a $50 dividend. And it just goes from there, right?
Right. Yeah, I like to say that if
Are you
first they
still
buy you
there?
a bump. Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me,
Yeah,
Dave?
I think so. Just cutting in a
Um,
little. Yep, I can hear you. Sorry
all
about
right.
this, everyone.
Oh, so I like to say that it buys you a pack of gum first, then they buy you a nice meal, and then they start covering some of your bills, and then one day they'll take over your bills. And I'm working on that path towards financial freedom and having my passive income sources cover my lifestyle, and that way I get to chase the passions I want and be work optional and own more of my income stream. So that's the goal. I want to take as many people on that journey as I can and inspire others to start taking over some of their income and build those passive income streams and own their income. So I'm excited to be here, Dave, and happy to be a
Yeah,
part of it.
exactly. Work optional is the key. Like if we can get to the point where we're working because we want to work, where work is just an option for you, that's obviously the key. And that's what we're I think all striving for.
Yeah, I never want to just sit around and do nothing. Like my idea of retirement or being work optional is just exactly that, like work optional. I want to be able to chase my passions, be able to fill my day with what I want to fill it with and not what I have to fill it with, and just own my life. Like it's my life. As far as we know, we only get this one life, and I want to enjoy it the best I can with the people around me and doing the things I want. So I think dividend investing will get me there.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's in my opinion one of the best vehicles for investing. Just let those dividends come to you, right? You're not trying to chase green candles. You're not trying to, short the market or time the market. You're just dollar cost average in and let those dividends come to you every month or every quarter.
Yeah, so funny story when I started investing, investing, I I had known what investing was and didn't care too much like to get into it. It wasn't the cool thing. I just started working and wanted my money to now that I had my own money coming in, I wanted to spend it how I wanted and investing wasn't exciting to me as like a 16, 17-year-old. So a couple years later, I had found out about day trading. The market was starting to get hot just after the COVID crash, and I started like day trading and swing trading and made a few bucks, lost a few bucks, but the most important thing I learned is that I'm not a market timer. I'm not it's not worth the stress to make a few bucks here and there trading like zero dates to expiration options. It's not worth the being on your phone all the time and stressing out if, oh, am I going to sell here? Am I going to miss the big move? Am I going to do I hold on and buy lower? Like I don't want to be chasing those hot stocks anymore, and I want to play the slow and steady game instead. So I'm opting to be the tortoise and not the hare.
I think that's the key is that none of us can time the market. Even if, like, day traders think they can time the market, and some of them do well on some days, but they overall they probably don't, right?
That's not stress I want.
That's not the stress I want either. Exactly.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'll play the slow and steady.
Exactly, exactly, and that's what dividend investing is you're playing the long game. Just get it, like I said, get on base. Don't worry about trying to hit a grand slam because you're probably not going to, but, I'll
Mhm.
take bases on balls all day long, right?
Hey, as soon as they cross home plate, it's a run either way, right?
Correct, correct, 100% correct, right?
Yeah. So,
Uh, let's get let's
yeah,
get
I love
into
it.
talking about some of the different sectors. What's your, any favorite sectors, whether it's REITs or energy or telecoms or
Yeah.
technology? What any sector that that you focus on or, are drawn to?
Well, I like to keep a diversified basket of everything. I try to own a little bit of everything, some more than others. But funny enough, Doctor Dividend loves healthcare. I think healthcare is
Nice.
strong. I think it's a strong sector that we all need as people. Every one of us needs to visit a doctor. Most of us need to take prescriptions, if not all of us, or have some sort of surgery that we may or may not have. But regardless, most of us see a doctor. And I like a lot of the healthcare names. There's some strong names in there that I hold that are strong dividend growers that have great balance sheets that fill a void for us as people. So I love United Healthcare as a company. That's one of my favorite stocks that I own. Very strong insurance side of the business and healthcare side of the business, and a growing prescription side of the business with data driven analytics that they're providing for hospitals and medical solutions for those hospitals and centers. So UNH is one I really like, and AbbVie. I like AbbVie Pharmaceuticals as well. I think that they have a strong portfolio of dividend of sorry, strong portfolio of pharmaceuticals, and they've demonstrated over 50 years of dividend growth and yielding, I think, around 3% today, 3.3 if I'm not mistaken. But strong dividend yield up front, strong history of growth, and I think healthcare is a strong sector.
Yeah, I agree. As most people know, I'm in Canada. You're in the US. This is not a podcast to talk about the differences between the healthcare systems in Canada and the US. This is a podcast to talk about investing, dividend investing. And so, yeah, I can definitely see your point of view, your perspective as to why you would want to get into those healthcare companies that are predominant in the US. And yeah, I've definitely seen that AbbVie one come up so many times in Twitter. So many people are absolutely in love with that one, which is that's obviously a good thing when people all say, "Hey, this is a good company.
Yeah.
Let's invest in it." Right?
One that I really like, like I said, I love United Healthcare. There's a few more names on my radar I want to look into. I want to do more research on Eli Lilly. That's one that just raised their dividend today. I believe it was 15%. So strong. I've heard a lot about Eli Lilly. That's one I want to dig into. You have your tried and true Johnson and Johnson, that one of the top three credit ratings of any company in the world. So strong
Right.
name there. And healthcare is vast. I'm a big believer in the sector, and I do have a few sectors that I like as well. Like I'm an investor for the future. I love tech. Sometimes tech gets blown out of proportion by valuation, and sometimes the dividend growth isn't as strong as you'd like it to be, or the starting yield isn't as strong as you'd like it to be. But a lot of these tech names are going to pave the way for the future and have a lot of room on their balance sheet to raise dividends. So that's another sector I really like. You just got to be careful of valuations when it comes to tech. 'Cause people get ahead of themselves. But yeah, I'd say tech as well is one of my favorite sectors to invest in.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Going back to before we transition into technology, going back to what you just said about the healthcare sector and a lot of those companies that you're either invested in or on your watch list that solid this solid growth. And I guess that's my next point going into the technology sector, exactly what you just said, where you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, so to speak, that some might be overvalued, be undervalued at some points, and some might not have the dividend growth you're looking for or hoping. But again, we're playing the long game, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely the long game. There's some stocks that I almost want to throw up that I pay 40 times earnings for, but it's some of these companies are sorry, excuse me. Some of these companies have such moat and they're just primed to pave the way for the future. Like, for example, ASML, another company I hold is I wrote a breakdown on my Twitter if anyone's interested, but the too long didn't read version is basically this company makes the machines that make the most advanced semiconductors, and they're about a decade ahead of anybody else who has any semiconductor manufacturing technology. Their machines are so powerful and so precise. They cost like upwards of $300 million a machine, and only them make those machines, and they basically have a monopoly. They're a Dutch based company, and they're trading around 40 times earnings. I bought a little bit lower than that. I can't remember exactly what the price to earnings ratio I was when I bought, but I'd have to be at least over 30 times. And as someone who's a value investor at heart, paying 30 times for a stock can be kind of gut wrenching, but I know what I'm getting
Very
into.
much so.
Yeah, I know what I'm getting into, and I really like the company. And hey, if it does go lower, I'll be there buying. I want it to be lower and accumulate more shares. But as it sits, sometimes I hindsight will tell me if I overpaid or not, but it's a chance I'm willing to take on a good company.
Yeah, and for those watching this on YouTube, I have your Twitter screen or your Twitter page up on screen. You can easily find at 47 right there. Everybody go give Dr. Dividend 47 a follow.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. So, and well, another sector, I guess the sector that I is kind of, I don't know if I want to use the term near and dear to my heart, but a sector I love is REITs. And again, we're going to be comparing back and forth here some Canadian and US market market sectors or stocks or companies.
Yeah,
And one that I hold is called NWH. You've probably heard me talk about it before or seen other tweets about it. And NWH is Northwest Healthcare, but they're a healthcare REIT. So they basically own the properties that consist of the doctor's offices, the medical clinics. I'm assuming they probably own some hospitals or the land that the hospital sits on as well.
yeah.
So that's just one of my favorites in I guess it covers both the healthcare and the REIT sector. Anything in REITs that that excites you?
Yeah, so REITs are something I've been trying to get in more into. I do have a couple of REIT positions in my portfolio. After I sat down with Brad Thomas. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Brad from he kind of hangs around on DivTwit as well, but Brad works for Wide Moat. He's the CEO of Wide Moat Research, and he is heavily involved in researching REITs. And I had a good conversation with him. Gave me a few names to look into, like Tanger, the company that owns the majority of outlets in the U.S. Simon Property Group owns a majority of malls in the U.S. and a lot of names I would like to look into. As of right now, I own Realty Income. I think that's the gold standard of REITs. Ticker symbol O. I'm sure.
Every
Yeah, I'm sure everybody listening probably owns it too. So I don't need to
every
dive too deep
single
into it. Go ahead, Dave.
I'm I'm pretty sure that every single American guest I've had on the Passive Income podcast has held Realty Income.
Yeah,
So,
they're
and
phenomenal.
probably even a few of my Canadian guests have held it as well. It's obviously honestly, I don't hold it. I haven't looked into it that much. I don't hold any US stocks. That's just my personal strategy right now is I'm focusing on the Canadian market. Obviously, there are a lot of Canadian companies that give me exposure to either the
Yeah.
US or other global markets.
And
So,
there's some gems that in Canada that I'm just scratching the surface of, so I'm happy to hear some Canadian stock ideas that you may have. Just scratching the surface in Canada. I recently, well, not too recently, but within the past like a year or so, I bought into Canadian Natural Resources, CNQ, and that's been a successful investment so far. They gush free cash flow. They have a low um, break even cost per barrel of oil. Well, I should have started by saying it's an oil company, and they have a fantastic plus over 4% dividend yield today. So with years of growing it, I believe they're, if I'm not mistaken, 25 years of dividend growth or close to it. So great company in my eyes. But yeah, I'm just getting into Canadian. I don't want to stray too far off the REITs, but just getting into some Canadian names that it's interesting market.
no, that's a great segue because I guess next on my list is banks and financial. Have you seen anything on Twitter about Canadian banks?
There's a huge presence that loves Canadian banks, and I need to start doing my research. I the only one I'm really familiar with is TD, uh, because TD has some locations where I am, but not too familiar with the rest. I know they're an oligopoly of about like 6 banks, I believe, that really run everything. But interested to hear your take on Canadian banks.
Sorry, you said TD?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I don't know how much you lost of that, but TD, I would say, is the only one I'm sort of familiar with just because they have some locations near me. But I know that TD, I'm the Canadian banks operate in like an oligopoly, about 6 banks
Yeah,
that run pretty
exactly.
much everything. So I'm excited to hear your take about about Canadian banks because it's a strong following for them.
Yeah, so well, one, you're right there in Massachusetts, so TD Gardens is like the new Boston Gardens basically, right?
Right.
So, that's obviously when a Canadian bank is all of a sudden the stadium arena sponsor of an NHL hockey team, that's obviously pretty big,
Yeah.
and not just in Canada, but of a US American team. So, not financial advice, but obviously, the Canadian banks, like you said, this like oligopoly of these five, you can call National Bank the six, where I don't want to say you can't go wrong, but you pretty much can't go wrong.
Right. All of them have about over
Strong
100
growth,
years of
strong
dividend.
dividends.
Yeah, over 100 years of paying a dividend on each one, right? That's pretty phenomenal.
Over 150 on each one.
Wow, that is amazing. Like, just think back, 150 years puts you at what, 2 9 no,
Yeah,
quick math,
so
sorry, my teacher brain is, done for the day. So for those that don't know, I teach
actually
elementary school.
2029, I think Bank of Nova Scotia is the first one anniversary,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's amazing.
which is obviously incredible. And then I think in 2031, yeah, 2029, I believe, I'd have to double check this, but 2029, in 7 years, almost 6 years from now, Bank of Nova Scotia is coming up on their 200-year anniversary, and I believe 2031, Bank of Montreal,
That's
has their
amazing.
200th anniversary.
That is
Yeah, like,
absolutely
how many
amazing.
other companies have paid dividends for 200 years?
I can't think of any. The only one I could think of maybe Procter& and Gamble, but I don't think they're even around for 200 years. That might be a stretch. So that's pretty amazing. That maybe if you go back to
Exactly.
Standard
Yeah.
Oil before ExxonMobil, if you count the Standard Oil days, maybe them. But yeah, that's a feat that a lot of companies won't touch. Very impressive. So yeah, definitely worth more of a digging into.
Yeah, another sector, haven't really got into it yet, but telecoms. Obviously, this is a little more similar comparison in Canada and the US, where you have sort of your big 3 in Canada being, Bell, Telus, and Rogers, and similar in the US, you sort of have the big 3 of AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. Any thoughts on the telecoms?
So telecoms isn't one that I personally hold. I used to be a Verizon shareholder, but just with like the slow dividend growth and slow growth that I saw on the horizon, I just don't see telecoms as a viable spot for me. I feel like my money could be better invested in other sectors. Stability wise, if you're looking for stability and a fat dividend yield, that's a good place to be. I'm just looking for more of dividend growth and overall growth in the company. And outside of 5G, which Verizon and AT&T are behind on compared to T-Mobile, in my opinion, I don't see much tailwinds for the telecom industry going forward. And T-Mobile, the leader of that 5G charge, doesn't even pay a dividend, so it's not something I'm really interested in at the time. But as far as
Nice.
stability, I think telecom is a good place to be if you're more towards retirement or you're looking for more stable, predictable dividends. I think that telecom is a good place to be. Just for me, I feel like I have a lot of years ahead of me, hopefully, of investing. So I think I have a better chance of parking my money in other sectors. But nothing wrong with telecoms, just not for me.
Yeah, no, good point. And similar in Canada. I think maybe I'm pretty sure all three of them, the big three, do pay dividends. I know Bell and Telus do for sure. I'm assuming Rogers does as well. I haven't honestly looked into Rogers too much. They're not really my favorite. Yeah, so that's just yeah. And honestly, I didn't realize that T-Mobile didn't pay a dividend, and I didn't realize that, like you said, it's your opinion, but they seem to be in the lead of the 5G.
Yeah.
And obviously in Canada too, the all the big 3 are really working on expanding their 5G networks.
That's where I see the growth going. But after that, it's like, what else? What else is a positive? Do we use telecoms every day? I guess, yeah. Like something that's more and more necessary for society. So the demand should be there. But as far as growth, I don't know. What's the next leg up? 6G,
It's like
7G?
we always have these in our hands all day, every day, right?
Yeah. So like I said, not a bad investment in my opinion. Like again, I'm not a financial advisor, but um, I think there's a stable place to park some money, but it's just not for me at this time.
Yeah, no, cool. That's understandable, and that's kind of a great point. Is that we're all individuals and we're all different, and we all like different sectors for different reasons. Whether it's REITs, telecoms, energy, banks, right? Like,
Right.
um, healthcare, like that was off the top.
Yeah.
Being the doc that you are, Doctor Dividend is right into the healthcare.
Yeah. And also I wanted to bring up one last point of REITs. While not necessarily a REIT, I am a fan of McDonald's, ticker MCD. They're kind of like a pseudo REIT because like you think of them as just a hamburger joint, but they own some of the most viable and most highly valued, sought after real estate in America, mostly around the world, if we're being honest. They have a
Yep.
presence in almost every country, and they make the bulk of their money from leasing to franchise owners. So that's kind of like a pseudo REIT for me, and they fare very well in a recession that we may or may not be entering soon or might already be in. But like
Or we could be getting past the end of it. We don't know, right?
you don't
They
know,
don't tell
and
us.
they tell us once the storm is over, right? But McDonald's, I think, is very viable is from a REIT standpoint as well as a consumer discretionary standpoint. When you have extra funds, you might take the kids to McDonald's, or if you're running low and you want to go out to eat, you're running low on money and you want a cheaper alternative, McDonald's could be there too. So I think that's a strong name for the economics the situation that we were going to find ourselves in.
Yeah, a couple of great points there. Obviously, the movie, I think it was called The Founder, and they really
Fantastic.
go over how, yeah, they really go over how that turned from a fast food company into a real estate company because they were like, invest in the land. The land is what is the valuable. Like, sure, you can sell burgers on the land. That's great. You're gonna make money selling the burgers and the Coke and the ice cream when your ice cream machine works. Right?
Right.
But that is also actually also a great segue into, like you said, consumer discretionary, consumer staples. Yeah, McDonald's, Pepsi, Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
like endless amounts of great American companies, like the three I just mentioned. Costco, you can throw in there.
Oh, that's one of my favorites.
Anything else?
I was just gonna touch on that. So,
Go for it.
yeah, for staples and discretionary would probably be the next two biggest uh position sector allocations in my portfolio. Like you just said, from a staple standpoint, Costco, the dividend growth is fantastic. That's another stock I paid a pretty penny for on a premium basis, but strong name, constantly above like your average price to earnings ratio. And looking at it from first glance, you might just be like, why would somebody pay 40 times earnings for a 0.5% yielding stock? And then you look back at that dividend growth and it's just been phenomenal. Like
Right.
aside from the special dividends that they pay, I think it's every 4 years. The most recent one I believe was $10 a share, which is like unbelievable for a special dividend. Yeah. But on top of your regular dividends they've been raising since 2004, you get your special dividends, you get a low beta stock that is just phenomenal in all economic situations. I think the time of the recession, people go and bulk up. The time of COVID, people buy in bulk. The time of your regular everyday person who always buys in bulk or has the big family or just wants to keep a stockpile of stuff at home, they do well. Their membership rates, renewal rates above 90%, and they're just a phenomenal business that just gets it done. So Costco is definitely one of my favorite names. I'm also a Pepsi shareholder. I think their drinks and snacks have a great portfolio of brands. People use them in all economic environments, and I think Pepsi's another strong name with over 50 years of dividend growth. So two phenomenal companies, in my opinion, in the staple sector. And if you want me to jump into discretionary, a few names I have there as well. Excuse
Yeah,
me.
sure, go for it.
Coming from this one's kind of close to my heart because I used to work there for a number of years, but the Home Depot, one of my biggest positions. I know they operate in Canada as well, but the Home
Yep.
Depot is one of my favorite positions. I think that they are a phenomenal example of a business that has figured out e-commerce, but not at the expense of their brick and mortar locations. Um, it's not something that Amazon or anything like that could replace because when you're remodeling a house, people want to go in and see the paint, see the tile, see the flooring they're going to use. And I think it serves a huge portion of the population, whether you're a pro contractor or a DIYer or a landlord, whoever you are likely going to get your home improvement stuff at Home Depot. And with I forget the statistics, but the majority of the houses in the US at least are over 40 years old. They need repairs. Home Depot's got it. You're building a new house, you
Yeah.
need materials, Home Depot's got it. I think that they're kind of like a pseudo way to get exposure to real estate, but also exposure to discretionary and e-commerce and warehousing, and it's just a phenomenal business, top to bottom. And from being there, I was able to see it from the inside, and it made me even more confident. So that's one that I really like to load up on when it's trading at a discount.
Yeah, no, agree 100%. Home Depot, Lowe's, they're great in that sector because, like you said, whether you're a landlord, a pro contractor, a do-it-yourselfer, everybody that owns a home, or even people that have apartments that are renting, they're still going to Home Depots and Lowe's to buy the things that are in those stores for these little tweaks to the place they live in, right? So,
Exactly. They'll need a place
yeah,
to live.
I can't disagree.
Um,
And
yeah, go ahead.
I'll just I'll tie this back to my REITs. There's a very strong REIT in Canada called RioCan. You've probably seen
Oh,
tweets
I've
about
heard
it.
of
You
it.
probably
Yeah,
have seen that I like it.
yeah,
And in the city, about an hour, not even about 45 minutes east of me, there is a very large RioCan complex. So there's retail stores, movie theaters, restaurants, and a Home Depot is basically the anchor store of that whole complex. So I think that kind of so very indirectly, I have a little tiny bit of that Home
yeah.
Depot as well, right?
Yeah, definitely, and they're a dream for REITs that own them because they bring in so much traffic and they bring in people that shop around them, and like you said, they are the anchor of a lot of plazas, and
Right.
they're just fun. I can't say enough about Home Depot. I just think they're a slam dunk.
Nice,
Uh,
nice.
Starbucks, another one on my list that I really do like. I'm a little worried about Starbucks just because their big growth plan in the future is China, and as you may or may not know, China is very shaky on their political like I don't even know what the word is. They're just shaky all around. I
to say the
I
least, right?
yeah, exactly. You can't really trust the metrics. You can't figure out what the government is going to do this week or that week. So that's one thing that is definitely on my radar for Starbucks going forward. But in the U.S. and other countries abroad, they have a strong brand presence. They operate at good margins. They have the power to raise prices basically at will. Like created the premium coffee experience, and it's just a strong
Right.
name for me going forward.
When
But definitely
somebody's willing to pay $7 for a coffee, you know they're doing something right.
yeah, they have to be because if you say that out loud, you almost want to laugh. Like $7 for a coffee, but then you see your local Starbucks with a line out the door, and you know that it doesn't matter what they charge; they're gonna have people lining up. So, very strong brand. To
For
say
the
the least.
record, I have never paid $7 for a coffee.
I can't say I have either. It's I look at that seven. I have been known to visit a Starbucks every now and then, but I have to keep a price cap because that seven
Yeah.
dollars, that $7 I could spend it on a coffee for now, or I could spend it on a stock for the future. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to pick the stock for the future.
Well, exactly. I agree with that one 110%, 110% for sure. Before we move on from that, yeah, you've probably, either heard some of my past podcasts or my tweets where I've said I work in the food industry, so, going back to the Starbucks and the Costcos and the Pepsis with their beverage and snack lines, I get that, and even if I didn't work in the food industry, whatever industry you work in, you eat every single day, and
Absolutely.
that's why those companies are so great. And obviously we have Costco's here, we have Starbucks here in Canada, and we have other stocks too of like individual grocery stores that you can buy as well. So there are lots of ways. There's so many ways to sort of play that sector, if you will, right? To like
Yeah.
just cash in on the fact that people have to eat every single day.
Yeah. And a lot of the names that we've mentioned is stuff that people use every day. And it's no coincidence. These companies are here to stay and they're strong for a reason because we use them every day. Like where the majority of
Yeah,
the time
exactly. Exactly.
you're gonna go to home like we said, we're going to Home Depot to buy our home improvement stuff. You may stop at Starbucks on the way there or the way back. You might drink a Pepsi or a Coke when you go out to eat. You're standing in a store that's owned by a REIT. You the line out the door of McDonald's every day. You might stop there for a coffee or a sandwich. Or there's a reason these companies are so successful, and it's by no accident.
Yeah. Just side story, I work in the industrial park in the city close to me. It's a very small city, but there happens to be they've done very well in keeping the manufacturing in the region, even like going back to the 90s. I'm not sure if you're old enough to remember the original NAFTA agreement, but the original NAFTA agreement, so many US and Canadian manufacturing companies obviously went to Mexico for the financial benefit. But
Right.
our region did very well at keeping manufacturing. I don't know how they did it. But basically, what I was gonna point out is just around the corner, literally around the corner from where I work is there's a Procter& and Gamble plant,
Okay.
and then this morning I was at a cold storage facility, just one town over, and beside it's the same building as the cold storage facility is a PepsiCo, um, owned plant. I think they make Quaker not the Quaker
Yeah.
actually, I think it is the Quaker
They
muffin
do.
mix that they make at
Yeah, they
that
do
plant.
own Quaker, the company Quaker Oats, which I just found out recently after doing a deep dive on Pepsi. I had already been a shareholder, but I was like, oh, let me look in more into this company, and I noticed that they did own Quaker, and I was like, oh, that's surprising from Pepsi. You wouldn't think that, but yeah, those two strong names, two companies with worldwide presence, and just another like box to check when you're looking at investing in them potentially. Just worldwide presence is huge too.
Well, exactly, right? Exactly. Wow, we've flown through a lot of the different sectors, REITs, energy, banks, telecoms,
Yeah, I know.
which is good, that's fine. I'm gonna, uh I'm gonna pull up your link tree here. I see you have a whole lot going on. Let's just talk about some of the different things in your link tree.
Yeah, definitely. I believe the top one is my newsletter. I've been writing a newsletter every week for about, I think, since about April. So I guess 8 months. Been writing every week, and it's just kind of like an extension of my learning and stuff that I learn. I want to just give back to people. So you can join that for free. Um, Publish every Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern, and I just try to be as helpful and provide as much value as I can to people. And if you like it, if you want to see anything, you can always reach out to me on Twitter or my email or anything like that. I've also just recently started a podcast. It's called Dose of Dividends, and I try to have people on that passionate about dividend stocks and investing and passive income in general. Sometimes I do stray from dividends. I like to learn from everybody around me in different passive income strategies because, in my opinion, you never want to limit your ability to make wealth. So if you want to hear different stories from how other people create wealth, I'd love to hear that. I'd love to talk to people, so you can check that out as well. um, Stock Market Sniper is my latest book, and the goal of that book is just to basically simplify the metrics that I use to pick stocks. And I really love that book's near and dear to my heart because when I first started investing, you just get hit with a wall of information, and there's so many numbers and metrics and opinions that people just throw at you. And I like to, I got lost. So I really wanted to, after a few years of investing, really hone in on what was the most important to me and how can I simplify the dividend investing process for somebody else. And that book is the book that I wish I had to start out with. So that one's really near and dear to my heart.
So, when you say
Yeah,
my latest book, the latest book you've read or the latest book you've written?
written. So Stock Market Sniper and Time is Money are two of the books that I've written since I've started my investing journey.
Oh, wow. So, yet another published author here on the Passive Income Podcast. I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that
Oh,
that,
no
that you had
problem, man.
books out.
No problem. Yeah, I feel like I post about it every day, and I don't ever want to just like throw it in people's faces every single day. But I can't tell you how many people I come across where they're like, "Oh, I had no idea you had a book. I had no idea you had a newsletter. I had no idea you had a podcast." And I'm like, I'm promoting this stuff every single day, and the fact that people still haven't heard about it is something I have to keep working even harder to get out. So yeah, that was my summer project. For those that don't know, I teach elementary school is my main job. So I have summers off, and I spent the summer writing that book. So I
Oh,
hope to get
wow,
it to,
awesome.
yeah, thank you. I hope to get it to as many people as I can. And I
Is
just
there an
hope
Amazon link for it?
it's on Gumroad. I tried to publish it myself, so it's a PDF on Gumroad. I did not publish it as a hard copy or anything like that, but hopefully I do one day. I like these are the start of many, and I hope to continue to keep learning and redistributing everything I learn to everyone around me. So that may be in the future one day, but
Cool,
that was
cool.
my self. Those two are my self promote published route. The other book, Time is Money, is just a collection of like advice and lessons and mistakes I've made investing, so that way somebody who reads it can skip the part where they make the mistakes like I did. And that was the first book. I it's been a favorite. Some people, a lot of people have liked it. I did a giveaway for it where I gave away as many as I possibly could in 24 hours, and the feedback was really resounding. So I that was my first attempt at a book. I am super proud of it. I never thought like growing up I would ever write a book or care enough about something to ever sit down and take the hundreds of hours to write it. And if you had told me in my high school English class where I hated to write that I would end up being a writer one day, I would have thought you were crazy. So those are super special to me. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, you want me to keep going on any of the other ones or?
Yeah, sure, let's go. So, um, what to do before investing a single dollar? Was that the next one on the list?
Yeah, so that was like a free little guide I wrote, just kinda like a few basics of personal finance I learned, while growing up and investing. I'm thankful to have a really good personal finance and business teacher in high school that a lot of people are not fortunate enough to have. Like, I can't tell you how many people I run into who have never learned anything about business or investing or anything like that, even as an adult. Like, so to have that in high school was super changing, life changing for me. And I just kind of distilled all the stuff I learned about, like, not all the stuff, but distilled a lot of the things I've learned from personal finance and just building a solid foundation before you start jumping into investing, because it's easy to jump in nowadays with zero commission and no like barrier to entry. As long as you have a phone and a bank account, you can start investing. But it's important to get certain things out of the way, like emergency funds or budgeting, like some of the basic boring stuff you don't really like want to do but kind of have to do. So
Right.
that was a free guide I wrote. um, and a couple of the other links are affiliate partnerships I have with companies I use. Um, the first one is Fundrise. It is a way to get different exposure to real estate as opposed to REITs and buying your own property outright. It is a crowdfunding platform where you can buy into a fund that the company owns, and they set up new developments of housing and commercial properties that when you invest, your money gets diversified across those properties, and you kind of become a part owner of those properties. So when they collect rent and the buildings appreciate, you can enjoy that as well without having to manage the buildings yourself. So that's company I contribute a portion of my portfolio every month to Fundrise Investing. And something that I've jumped in a little bit just for diversification is wine. Like, believe it or not, you can invest in wine. You won't get the dividends that you may with stock investing, but it's just a little something that I've had alternatively, so I don't keep all my eggs in one basket with stock investing. Because as much as I love stocks and dividend investing, and the vast majority of my wealth is put into dividend investing, I'm a firm believer that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. So I use those two platforms for diversification purposes. And lastly, you can find me on LinkedIn and Medium as well. I publish articles to Medium and publish on LinkedIn as well. And I'm trying to grow my presence on those platforms as well. So I'm sure a lot of you know me from Twitter, but I am branching out, and I just want to be where I can connect to the most people and share my journey and just share what I know, as long as people want to keep learning from me. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's great stuff.
Thanks, man.
Is there anything else we need to talk about? We've really plowed through a lot of information in just over 40 minutes, which is great.
I guess the last thing I wanted to say is just
Anything
aside from saying thank you so much for having me on, because I'm very happy to be here and happy to sit down with you. On the way out, I just want to say that I think that everybody has the chance, that the stock market gives everybody the chance to start to own some of their own time back. And unfortunately, like, the way of my parents and the way of their parents was just all the money they had was that they worked for on their feet, and that was it. And as times get harder for people like us growing up, and even people older than me that are still trying to make ends meet, especially with families, I think it's more important now than ever to buy some of your time back and have that alternative income stream where you can harness the power of dividend compounding. You can enjoy that these companies raise dividends year after year. Matter of fact, I just tweeted, like, early in the week, one of my holdings, Waste Management, raised their dividends 7.7%. And I thought to myself, I'm sitting here reading this and I just got a 7.7% raise. I have never gotten that raise at any job I've ever worked at. And it's just powerful to see that you can make money without having to work on your feet for it. And there'll be a time where you don't want to work the 40 hours a week. You don't want to, your body can't handle it, or you're tired, and, or like, uh, hopefully nothing bad happens to anybody listening, but you may have a surgery or a broken bone. That's happened to me, and I've been out of work. So knowing that you have that safety net of dividends, I think, is just so powerful. And anybody who has a bank account and an internet connection could take advantage of that. So I just want everybody to go out there and chase that dividend investing. If that's something that fits into your risk profile and you want to own dividend stocks and build that second income stream, I think everybody should go out and do it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know, the stock market does not discriminate. Doesn't matter if you're white, black, Asian, straight, gay, whatever.
Exactly.
Anybody can do this, and it's like I've said in past podcasts, it's the absolute most inclusive club that anyone can join. And yeah, just and like I've
Cool.
also said to my Moneyball reference, just get on base, right? You just got to
Yeah.
get on base. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you got to find what fits your profile. Like, there's people out there that are gonna play the crazy options and play the crypto coins, and that's totally fine as long as you know what you're getting into. For me personally, I want to play the slow and steady wins the race, the Warren Buffett approach. I just want to take
Yep,
my time and be consistent. Just let my dividends do the compounding, and one day I'll reap what I sowed as a 23-year-old. To like as I'm older, I can enjoy what I worked hard for. So I encourage everybody to do the same if you can. So thanks again, Dave, so
exactly,
much for having me
100%.
on.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just gonna, in wrapping up, say 100%. You're planting that seed now so that you can sit in the shade
Yeah,
sometime down the road. You're not going to get the shade tree the day you plant the seed. You're going to get the shade
exactly,
of that tree 20, 30 years down the road. So just plant the
exactly.
seed. I know I'm using different metaphors and analogies and whatnot, but and brick by brick, got to get that one in there.
Yeah, brick by brick. That's it. That's it.
All
Brick by
right.
brick.
Thank you so much to Dr. Dividend for being on this episode of the Passive Income Podcast. Please be sure to subscribe and join the Passive Income Posse. We'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you, Dave. This was a lot of fun.